When's the last time you truly celebrated yourself? Where you really allowed yourself to feel good feelings, like you're so proud of yourself and holy crap, I can't believe I just accomplished that. For most of us, it's been a really long time. So I had this meeting today with my accountability buddy, who's a really good friend of mine. And she was talking about the threads of her life and how each time she achieved something new, she made an excuse. She downplayed it. She said, well, I only made it as captain of the cheer squad because this person didn't try out. And I'm sure she would have made it, right? And then she became or got elected homecoming queen. She's like, well, I only got it because whatever, insert excuse here. And she didn't celebrate herself. And now she's in her 60s. And I said, well, how about now? Let's fast forward. Do you celebrate yourself now? And she said, not really. So I invited her to celebrate herself. And not only that, to give herself grace. So when she sets really high standards for herself, she accomplishes a ton, way more than the average person does in a week. She'll get finished in a day. She's like, well, of course, that's what I did. That's my normal. So when you expect high things from yourself, you either hit the mark and then you're like, well, I did what was expected. It's just normal, right? It's nothing to celebrate. Or you miss the mark and beat yourself up, feel like a failure, like you're not enough. So I don't know too many people that celebrate, that take time and say, oh my gosh, I hit my goals, or wow, I surpassed them, or look who I've become. Look at how generous I am. And not that you're going to say that to anybody else, but to really acknowledge yourself fully and maybe treat yourself special. It doesn't have to be that you go out and spend money on yourself, but it could be. Maybe you get a manicure, a pedicure, a massage, or maybe you just take a nice bath or a hike in nature and you take a couple hours off from working. Anything that really acknowledges you as a human being is a good place to start. So welcome to Irresistible. You ignite your passion and purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. I am your host, and I am delighted that you are here. I love this topic. I had a mentor, and you don't remember which one, say to me, when you celebrate life, life celebrates you. So that's what I'm here to encourage you to do. Because as you know, my background is in a lot of psychology, and I've been on a spiritual journey, and I love to meld the two. I am here to help spiritual seekers stop seeking and start living their purpose. And I do that by combining neuroscience so that we can hardwire these new behaviors and beliefs into your brain so that they stick. So you don't have this spiritual ideal up here that you're constantly falling short of because your brain doesn't support you. So we have your brain wired up to support your new you, the you it's not the new you, it's the oldest you there is, but it's the high version of you. It's the true, pure version of you. And most of us have spent a lifetime like taking things away that aren't us. So we spend the early parts of our years adding things onto ourselves that we think will get us attention or love or acceptance from others. And then when we reach a certain age, we're like, this doesn't feel good. I feel inauthentic. This doesn't feel like me. And you take a piece off and you're like, of the armor. And you're like, well, all right, that feels a little more authentic. I feel better, feel more in alignment. And the more pieces we take off, it's like if your soul's a window and we keep adding layers and layers of soot. And each time we do some self-discovery work, each time we use our voice, each time we celebrate ourselves or allow others to celebrate us, we're cleaning a little piece of that window and shining more of our light and letting it out. So hopefully that all makes sense to you, because I'm so passionate about this. We all have every single thing we need to start living our purpose right now. And it's just a matter of accepting all the things about us, the things that we think, oh gosh, if people knew this about me, they wouldn't love me. And the things that some of them are big things. Like if people knew that I was that good at math, they wouldn't love me. They would think I was better than them or something like that. So a lot of times we hide not only the parts of us that are shameful or that we're embarrassed about, but our gifts, our greatest strength. So for example, I don't know how I knew to do this, but many, many years ago, I would say like 1999. So a long time ago, I was married and my husband at the time got bone cancer in his leg, in his femur, the upper leg bone. And they removed like 4 inches of his femur. They put cadaver bone in there. And after a certain period of time, the bottom part of the graft had not grown together. The top part did, but the bottom didn't. And I wasn't really spiritual. I was a little bit religious at the time, but I wasn't really spiritual. I didn't know a thing about energy healing, never heard of it, didn't know it was even a possibility. But when the doctor said, if this doesn't grow together in the next month, you're going to have another surgery, I just went inside and I rubbed my hands together. I had him lay down. I rubbed my hands together and I put my hands over that bone and I saw it growing together. I saw it with my consciousness. And I had no doubt that that's what was happening. Now, I had never seen this done, never heard of it, didn't know it was a possibility, but I knew it was done. I just knew. Now, did I use this gift after that? Not for a long time. I just thought it was a fluke. I don't know, I just didn't even question it. And I didn't think, wow, this is something I get to develop. This is a really good gift. Well, fast forward years later, and I'm in the Dr. Joe Dispenza community, and he teaches everyone how to open their hearts, how to channel their energy through having a coherent heart and a coherent brain to heal others and to heal themselves. So this is something that you can do. This is something everyone has. I am not special. You're not special. I hate to break it to you. That doesn't mean we're not unique and we don't have different gifts and talents. But when it comes to universal energy, source energy, God, spirit, Christ-mindedness, we all have access, every single one of us. No one is excluded. And it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, you have access. And I don't want to go off on a rant here, but I might. So I believe that there is no such thing as sin and that God sees us as precious and perfect all the time. And when I was deep in my addiction, I don't know if you know this about me, but I was addicted to sex many years ago. I was so ashamed and so embarrassed that I rejected God, that I'm like, I don't want God to see this part of me. So I'm just going to ignore God and pretend he's not there. So it's kind of like, when you get bills in the mail, if you don't open them, they don't exist. Yeah, that was my philosophy back then about God, because I thought there's no way that any God that I've ever heard of would love me with what I'm doing right now. It's not true. It turns out that there's not a single thing you can do to make yourself any less lovable in God's eyes. There's not a single thing you can do to make yourself any more lovable. You are lovable because you are source. You are God. We all have that spark of divinity within us. So if that's not something to celebrate, I don't know what is. And I was thinking, in preparation for this episode, at my first Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long event, I had this mystical experience where I was doing a walking meditation on the beach. So I had my eyes wide open and I had what most people would consider a near-death experience where my entire life flashed before my eyes. I saw every choice I had ever made that led me up to that point. The choices that I had been judging, like, oh, that's so unlovable. What kind of person could do that kind of thing? And then it all made sense. I'm like, oh, I get it. And then the me on the beach filled with so much love for that woman and that girl who had made all those choices before. And my heart went, poof, and it just was wide open. And then I got it, that I and God are one. There is no separation. And then when I looked out on the water, I saw the ocean, I saw the birds, I saw trees, I saw people walking. And I felt this unity with everything and everybody. So I know, for me, That is a moment I will never forget. And at that moment, I raised my arms in the air and I just was looking at the sky like, thank you, God, thank you, thank you. And Dr. Joe's professional photographer took a picture of me at that moment. And that's a picture of me that's on my website. And I love that picture. Yeah, I have my hair in a ponytail, I have no makeup on, and it's the most radiant I've ever looked in my life, ever. It's beautiful. And I celebrate that picture. I celebrate that moment. And I know that it's available for everyone, things like that. And we get to celebrate them. And if you've heard anything about law of attraction, you know that every emotion has a frequency. It's vibrating, and you can't really see it unless you've developed that skill. But there are neutral emotions, like almost like contentment is almost neutral. It's a little bit higher than neutral. But joy, bliss, unity, love, those are really high vibrating emotions. Things like anger, lower, depression, despair, hopelessness at the very bottom. So we get to be aware of our emotions. And it's really fascinating. Go look up the emotional guidance scale. So when people are depressed and then they become angry, that's a step that's 7 steps up on the vibrational frequency scale. So that's something to celebrate. So if you've been depressed, which is really a suppression of anger, all depression is suppressing anger, light bulb. You ask a depressed person what they're angry about, almost all of them will say, I'm not angry, I'm depressed. But if you dig deeper, they can find something. And when they start to express that anger, they're actually moving up the emotional guidance scale. They're raising their vibration. And it's scary for a lot of people to be around anger. But if you look at it like that, almost like a scientist, it's better. It's better than depression. It's higher on the scale. And then you can move toward things like contentment, peace, joy, love. And when you get to those places, every time you move up, celebrate. You're like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. So my invitation to you today is to look for areas in your life that you've been thinking are expected of you. Like, it's expected of me to floss my teeth, for example. Well, maybe, but I know a lot of people that don't do it. So I personally celebrate. I'm like, yes, I really loved myself today. I flossed my teeth. I was tired and I flossed my teeth anyway. Little tiny things like that. And then when you get a promotion, or when you apply for the promotion, when you put your hat in the ring for the promotion, celebrate. Celebrate that you are going for it. You're not just sitting on the sidelines. So it's not the result necessarily that you're celebrating, although it could be. It's that you took the action. You had the courage. You took yourself on. You loved yourself enough to do something different, or to do something that was scary. All of that gets to be celebrated. And the other thing is that something that really supports is to share your celebrations with others. Like, if you have a good friend and you're like, this might sound stupid, but I really want to learn to celebrate myself. And so I had this little win today. So I was shooting this promotional video and I was putting it off. And I finally, like, my accountability buddy's like, okay, you need a deadline. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it by Monday. So I renegotiated because it turned out that I got to do something else first that I hadn't anticipated. So renegotiation is a great tool. Instead of breaking your word to yourself before the deadline passes, you renegotiate for a future time. That way you don't break your word to yourself. You're in integrity. So I created this beautiful, beautiful free gift that's on my website. So if you want it, I'm going to tell you about it. It is 20 ways that spiritual seekers stop seeking and start living their purpose. And I downloaded it. I mean, it just came like, I don't know, in a couple of hours, I was able to type, not write, but type it all out. And then I got it to my virtual assistant, who made it pretty, which is, that's not my thing. I don't make things pretty. I'm like, I'm not that kind of person. I know my skill set. I download. Someone else can make it pretty. So he put it on my website and all the things. So it is there now. So if you want that guide, it's absolutely free. Just go to my website, karenseltz.com, and grab it because it's beautiful. It's awesome. I love it so much. And I was so proud of myself for getting that done that quickly that I texted my accountability buddy and I said, I just created this beautiful thing. And then the next day I'm like, I finished my video. And, so it's little celebrations and they fuel your energy and they make it more likely that you're going to repeat the behavior. And back to the frequency, it raises your frequency. So when you're celebrating, what kind of energy is that? It's not like, no. It's like, woo, right? So when you're in woo energy, what do you think the universe brings you? You bring to you magnetize what you're a vibrational match to. And that is your emotional state. So when you're in celebration energy, you're in passion, excitement, bliss, pride in a good way. Like, I'm so proud of myself. I actually accomplished something really big or really small, whatever it is. You get to celebrate all of it, the big, the small. Celebrate everything, everything. When I put my toothbrush away, I am the kind of person that, I have a history of being disorganized. When I put things away, I'm like, oh, yeah, that feels good. Actually, adulted, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And I get to love all of it and celebrate when I actually do the things that are my ideals or that make me feel proud of myself. And you get to do the same thing. So instead of saying, yeah, I made my bed today, but I do it every day, you get to say, gosh, I made my bed today. And I'm not a fan of comparing, but even to yourself, if you're comparing yourself to, earlier versions of yourself, you can get into that same like comparison, compare and despair. But sometimes I like to do that, like, wow, I've really come a long way when it comes to something. It's evaluating your progress. And I love that. I think it's amazing. So try it. Try celebrating every single day. And here's your assignment. Find 3 things every single day to celebrate yourself for. Whether it's, something small, like I held the door for a stranger, or I took somebody's cart back to the thing so they didn't have to walk it. Little things like that. I celebrate myself for things like that. And now it's just a natural part of my personality. It's who I am. I look for ways to serve, little ways that can really make somebody's day, because you never know. And I am open to what spirit is guiding me to do, because maybe somebody was feeling really lonely or unsupported. And I say, hey, let me take your cart back for you. And they're like, wow, what? It's so shocking to people when you do those little things. It didn't cost me anything. I'm in good shape, whatever. I mean, it didn't cost me anything to give a stranger a smile and do one tiny little nice thing. And then the other part of that is when other people offer to do tiny nice things for you or big nice things, say yes. Say yes, because you're worth it. You deserve it. I heard something really fascinating this week. And I was meeting with one of the women that I met in Cancun at the Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long retreat that I was just at in June. And she was talking about the masculine and feminine energy. And I've never, ever heard this. She said, giving is masculine energy. And I'm like, well, of course, because receiving is feminine, but I never, ever put that together before. I never heard that. So if you are one of those people that gives and gives and gives, and especially if you're a woman, that's masculine. You get to give, sit back and receive. Allow people to give to you, because that's you and your power. And celebrate. Every time you allow someone to do something for you, celebrate it. Because I know for most of us, it's a hard one to start on that path to allow people to give to us. I don't know what it is, but there's something in there. I think for me, it was some of my needs as a child didn't get met. And so I thought the only way I'm going to get my needs met is if I meet them myself and expect nothing from anybody. So who did I put last all the time? Myself. Yeah. Can you relate to that? Have you ever done that? Put yourself last? And I saw my mom do that too. You know, she would sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. She wouldn't buy herself nice things, but she would make sure that we, her children, had what we needed because we didn't grow up with a lot of money. So I saw that modeled. And then I thought, if I'm not like that, I'm selfish, which was one of those words in my house that I did not want to be called. That was like the worst thing someone could say to me, especially my mom. She said, "You're selfish." I'm like, oh, ouch. And I just felt, like I didn't matter, like I wasn't good enough. And she was not happy with me. She didn't love me. And it was hard to hear that. And I heard it, especially when I was a teenager. I heard it a lot. So retraining those pathways in my brain and saying no, that's saying no to things. That's a good one, good place to start. Saying, like, checking in, like, is that in alignment for me? And if it's not, saying no, I'm sorry, that, or not even I'm sorry. I don't say that. I'm like, no, thank you. Thanks for thinking of me, though. It's just not in alignment for me right now. And I'm completely neutral. And I am grateful that people think of me for things, whether it's going somewhere or contributing to something, like, oh, could you help out at this event or bake sale, or I don't know, whatever it is. I check in. I don't say yes because I'm supposed to. I say yes if it's a hell yes for me. And then I celebrate that. Like, yeah, let's do it. It sounds fun. Or there's something in there for me where I get to be there. And I just know. So I invite you to check in with yourself before you say yes to anything. And when you start saying no, celebrate, because you're leaving space for yourself, for your calling, for your true passions, because you can't live your life if you're saying yes to everybody else's dreams. You can't live your dream, right? So be clear on what you want to create. Even if it's a little bit clear, like, or you start getting contrast, like, well, I know I don't want this. That's where a lot of people get to start with what they don't want, because that's more present. It's more in front of them. Like, people know what they don't like, but then when you ask them what they do want or what they do like, some people have a hard time with that. So start playing with it. If you don't like this, maybe you would like the opposite of that. So if you don't like anger, maybe you would like peace. Try it. It's a lot of fun. I love peace now. I used to thrive like in chaos or high stress. And I'm like, no, I don't need to create that way. Like high pressure situations that I would put myself in because I would procrastinate because of perfectionism. Look at that spiral. Now I'm like, well, I get to create this and I have fun with it. I ask for guidance from God, universe, source, spirit, and it comes. It always comes. So my invitation is to start celebrating yourself at least 3 times a day. Share those celebrations with your friends, your family, your loved ones, strangers. Say, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee because I just did this today. I mean, it's contagious, that kind of energy. It is. And it will produce so much more energy and momentum in your life when you're celebrating. And life will bring you so many more things to celebrate. So celebrate yourself. And if you have been in the cycle of seeking and not finding, like taking class after class and then not doing anything with it, maybe you take copious notes and then you close it and never look at them again. You don't implement any of the action steps. You're like excited for a couple of days and you're like, you go back to your life. Then pick up my free guide on the 20 ways spiritual seekers stop seeking and start living their purpose. You can get it at KarenSeltz.com. And let me know what you think of it, because I don't know, I think it's really, really important. And then in there, I sent an email, or you'll receive an email that invites you to join my Facebook group where you can get support from other people that are on the same path. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You. Have a beautiful week.